South East Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
South East Radio.
Well, change is the one constant in business, and over the years here on Business Matters, we've discussed the need for some businesses to pivot in order to achieve further growth, and my next guest has done just that. Greg Tuohy, the Managing Director from the Cantec Group, joins me now to discuss the diversification of his business. Greg, perhaps you might start the interview by providing us with an overview of the Cantec Group.
Sure thing, yeah. We are essentially a managed print provider, have been for, I suppose, about 25 years now. But we have concentrated on providing photocopiers, printers and managed print to initially the customers in the southeast, but then to further fields throughout Munster and across the rest of the country.
And of course, Greg, I know that when you joined the business back in 1995, you certainly had to work your way through all of the different departments before getting to that managing director's position. Why was that important for the family at the time?
Yeah, I had to cut my teeth starting right from the bottom. I remember I was playing a lot of rugby at the time, so my salary was £6,000 at the time, working for my folks. Not a huge amount of money. I was driving a tiny Peugeot van up and down to Cork. I was still playing rugby in Cork, but I was essentially doing deliveries and selling the odd small machine. But I progressed from there, became quite a decent salesperson along the way, and graduated on to sales director. And my dad retired in 2011, and I took the reins from him at that point.
As you look back on that experience that you gained across departments, how did that stand to you when you became the managing director?
I suppose I was able to get a really good perspective as to, what it's like being in the trenches, which is very useful to me. I mean, we've got 43 staff now, and I can speak to any of them as if I'm still working alongside them, which is great. My door is always open. So they treat me like anybody else in the company, which is really good. We all get on very well together. So yeah, we're a family-friendly type of company, and that suits us best. And I think it comes across to our customer base as well, which is why we keep a lot of our customers and we get so much repeat business. And
keeping customers is often the easy bit, but acquiring them can be quite difficult. What was your approach to acquiring customers over the years?
I suppose honesty is really the number one, and integrity. If you can come across as a genuine person, people are much more likely to want to deal with you. So, I mean, I would have learned that from my dad, who's been a salesman since back in the 60s. So he kind of wrote the book on it, I suppose, if anybody did. So being yourself, being honest, and having integrity at all times, not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes is key. So we've got a lot of customers who are literally going back to when we started in the mid-90s, and they've stayed with us for those reasons. And it's enabled us to win new customers along the way because we built a very strong reputation on being a genuine provider of products and looking after our customers with a local perspective.
And Greg, when you were appointed as the Managing Director in 2011, the Waterford and Limerick offices had merged. But what were the challenges and opportunities at that particular time?
Yeah, well, we had been a provider looking after businesses in the southeast, mostly up until then. So, coming together was a perfect match for us. Cantec and Limerick at the time were a similar sized company to us, but tragically their leader had just died months previous to that. So they needed direction, I suppose, which we were able to provide. And they also had a very good and loyal customer base, similar to ours out of Waterford. So I suppose the challenges were integrating a whole set of new colleagues into the culture that we espouse from the Waterford office. But that's something that we worked on very, very hard over the last, I suppose, 11 years or so. And it's worked well for us. We're now fully integrated at this point, and we have a very good and loyal staff contingent.
And Greg, 10 years on, the Cantec Group has now added offices in Dublin, Cork, Galway and Mullingar. But what has fueled this growth?
What has fueled the growth? I suppose the diversification into software has been part of it. But prior to that, we started to provide services to public companies and the public sector, which is there's a lot more to it. They're larger deals, so that would have fueled a lot of the growth initially. But I suppose all the while, in the last 5 years in particular, we realised that printing is an inherently unsustainable practice, if you like, of sharing information. So we realised that we were going to have to diversify. The digital revolution has been taking hold, so people want to share information differently than on a piece of paper. So we were always looking for ways to help our customers work smarter, and providing software was really the key to that.
And of course, some of the emerging trends were around the managed service solutions. So instead of companies now going out and buying a machine and then paying for maintenance, that was all wrapped up into a monthly payment. So when you saw that trend coming on track over the past number of years, how did Cantec feel about this?
Yeah, I suppose it's just kind of an evolution, which it's not something that we started doing one day. It was really an evolution led, I suppose, by our suppliers. We take a lot of advice from those down the years. So instead of selling, what is essentially a box that you put in the corner and copies or prints for you, the whole comprehensive solution of managed print services really evolved within our offering. And we became quite good at it. But as I say, just as we perfected it, then companies started thinking about how much they should be printing and how can they reduce print volumes. So it's been a challenge for us, I suppose, for the last 5 years to minimise the volume of prints that our customers are doing, which is a little bit counterintuitive because obviously the print volume is our bread and butter. So we're trying to satisfy a customer base in their needs in reducing print volumes while increasing our revenue through the actual print volume. So that was a challenge for us, I suppose, in the last 5 years. It's just why we have diversified so much of late.
And before we go and talk about that diversification strategy in more detail, you mentioned earlier in the interview about focusing on winning government contracts. I presume they were tendered contracts. And if so, what was your particular strategy to go after them in terms of getting that tender right and pricing it right?
Yeah, well, again, this was something I would have done in collaboration with Canon, who's our main supplier. So what we did is we went about getting accepted onto the Office of Government Procurement Framework, which is a specific framework for managed print services. So we did that back in 2016. We got onto the framework, which made us eligible to tender for government business around the country. And in quite a short period of time, we became quite successful. I basically learned how the tendering process works and what the clients were looking for in terms of the services and pricing, etc. So we put a lot of work into that, into upskilling our team so that we were able to produce good tenders, but also be able to deliver good services for the tenders that we actually won.
And Greg, did you have to sacrifice some margin in order to win those contracts?
Oh, certainly, yeah. The margin is certainly a good bit tighter than your regular private sector commercial business. So yeah, we sacrifice margin for revenue, I suppose. But what it's done for us is it's increased the size of our business, increased our profile, and it's given us much greater spending power with our suppliers. So we're able to get a less expensive product, I suppose, and work on our margin over the piece.
And as part of your evolving business strategy, you saw an opportunity then to provide business software to your clients. Talk to us about how you went about that.
Yeah, it was almost by chance actually, but I suppose the gradual emphasis of sustainability over the last 5 years and companies looking to work smarter and do things a bit differently was drastically accelerated this time last year. Well, initially with Brexit, but obviously this time last year with COVID-19. So we needed to pivot quickly when that happened. And by chance, I had met a guy who had just left one of our competitors in Cork, actually. I tried to hire him to sell photocopiers, but he had no interest in that. I quickly found that out. But I got speaking to him, and we started discussing the whole concept of supplying software automation to businesses around the country. Now, he had just founded a really small software company with his business partners, just the two of them. They had no customers to speak of, but they had some really good ideas, and the two guys were absolutely top-notch in terms of their vision and their ability to describe how these automation products would benefit businesses. So we started collaborating with each other about 18 months ago and did very well with that. They brought their expertise. We brought a loyal customer base, and we just began selling automation products to that customer base. And it went so well, we actually merged the two companies 6 months ago to create the Cantec Group, and Smart Office is the brand for software automation within it.
Wow, now that is certainly the end result of a great partnership where the two companies come together and merge. So how has this partnership with Smart Office changed Cantec Group's product or service offering, specifically around that area of automation?
Well, it's totally changed our emphasis. So we were basically a hardware company up till 18 months ago, providing a little bit of software around the edges, but without any focus on it at all. And suddenly now, at least half of our focus is on providing automation to businesses. And one of our most successful products is what we call SOAP, which is Smart Office accounts payable software. So what that does basically, it automates the whole process of matching invoices and GRNs and purchase orders and statements, etc. The real tedious work that your accounts payable team would do. So depending on the size of your company, as to how big of a job it is, we can automate that entire process, which has been very successful for us. So our sales team of who were previously just selling hardware around the country are now opening up conversations with our customer base about, the pain points and the bottlenecks in their business processes. And we're getting lots and lots of opportunities to provide software to those loyal customers as a result.
And how open have your existing customer base been to trying this new software and to entering into license agreements on it?
Very open. I mean, we would not have been considered as a software company up until very recently, and even now, it's still a bit of takes still a bit of a convincing, but we're well on the road, and the sales team now have got a playbook which they're well accustomed to, and what we do is we just open the conversation with our customers, and then we bring in the intelligence experts, if you like, for a Teams call as it is at the moment, and really do an in-depth discovery as to what are the bottlenecks and the pain points in the processes that people have. And it's not just accounts payable. There's lots of other areas in businesses that we can provide solutions for, and it's been very successful because people want to be able to make their businesses more efficient, and if we can provide some piece of automation to do that, then it can make them very happy.
And Greg, I do believe as well that you've taken advantage of Brexit by introducing Clearance Tech. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Clearance Tech. What that is, we took the accounts payable engine, if you like, the software engine, and we just modified it for the import-export business. So as we know with Brexit, it's created an awful lot of pain with Irish exporters and indeed companies who are importing goods from the UK. So just to give you an example, last year in 2020, there were 1.8 million customs clearance declarations done in Ireland, whereas in January of this year, there's already 1.6 million done, with a projected number of somewhere between 18 and 22 million clearance declarations. And custom clearance is quite a tedious task, even more so now than it was in the past. There are 54 different entries that you need to apply to your declaration. So we provided a piece of software which automates this process and can save customers up to 20 minutes per declaration. So you can imagine a company doing a lot of exporting or importing, it can be a massive time saver for them.
And as you look to the future, Greg, how else do you think you're going to be able to assist businesses with automating more of their more manual tasks?
Well, this is it. I mean, now that we have, embraced the concept of automating, as you say, manual tasks, the engine that is used for the clearance tech and for the smart office accounts payable automation is the type of AI engine, artificial intelligence engine, machine learning, if you like, which is applicable to lots of different processes. And so, for example, document management is another, where you walk into an office and you're tripping over lever arch files, and you've got massive filing cabinets with reams and reams of paper in your office. We have very effective document management systems which can clear away all of that hard copy paper and store it intelligently for you to give you the ability to retrieve documents very quickly and easily.
And Greg, of course, looking beyond your own existing customer base in Cantec, how are you going to be able to make this software more available to other SMEs in Ireland and overseas?
Well, we have a very active sales team operating up and down the country. So in terms of the SMEs in Ireland, I think we feel we've got that cracked. But what we are planning on doing is producing a white label concept whereby we allow other partners like ourselves to supply this type of intelligence to their customer base. So we're already talking with companies in Scotland and one or two in other parts of the UK with a view to allowing them to white label, if you like, the products that we've produced so that they can provide automation solutions to their customer base, which are quite similar to ours.
Greg, I have to say it's a great example of a very established business here in the southeast of Ireland taking the opportunity to pivot and innovate their service offering to be able to meet the needs of their existing client base. Finally this morning, as we exit the government restrictions over the coming months, what's your outlook here for business-to-business services?
Carl, quite frankly, I think it's going to explode. I mean, just listening to some of the statistics being bandied about recently, I think there's 11 billion extra euros has been saved in the last year by private citizens in Ireland. So you can imagine how many cars will be purchased come the back end of this year and into next year. And of course, all that economic activity will have a knock-on effect in every industry. So people will be very busy. People will be crying out for anything that can make their jobs more efficient, and I think automation software is going to be one of those key elements.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Greg Tuohy, the Managing Director of the Cantec Group, and I'd like to thank Greg for sharing his success story with us this morning.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.